How would you like to make your first million? And today we have Tamara Nall, eh, the CEO of the leading niche. And Tamara Nall is the president and CEO of the leading niche, an international recognized firm specializing in big data, artificial intelligence, and advanced analytics. On the leadership, the company has spent more than 18 years helping federal agencies and global organizations transform complex data in workflows. So tell us, Tamar, what are the 5 steps you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the 5 million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Absolutely, Harry. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. So, number one, I think that every entrepreneur, in order to make your first 5 million, you have to find a real need and make sure that you fill a real gap. A lot of people start businesses around what they want to do, but the real opportunity is where there's a clear problem that people are struggling with. I can't tell you how many times folks come to me and say they want to start a business because someone said they're a good expert at this or that. So it's a one-time deal, but you got to make sure that it's a consistent need or a gap that can be filled. Two, you have to deliver exceptional customer service. I tell people if you focus on the customer, not to the extent of going out of business, because sometimes customers can ask for a lot, but if you focus on customer service, then you treat people well, but most importantly, you understand that you're trying to help them solve a real business problem, then they will come back to you over and over again. We have customers that we've worked with for 10 to 12 years. Many of our customers we work with for 10 to 12 years because we are so focused on them. But we also ask our main contact, well, what are their personal and career goals? And if we can align those, we absolutely will. Third step is to make sure that you build credibility early. Again, that's quality work, meeting deadlines, over delivering, and doing what you say you will do. Because reliability and high customer service is a currency that I often speak to my mentors about. Fourth, make sure that you reinvest in the right places. When you start making money, the temptation to expand everywhere, there's an opportunity over here, there's an opportunity over there, it becomes very real. And you need to invest in areas where you can directly support profitable growth. And I focus on profitable. A lot of people focus on revenue. But if you're not making profit, what's the point? I tell people if you're losing money, you're basically paying the customer to work for them versus they're paying you. So you want to make sure that you invest in talents and systems and relationships. And then the fifth step is to stay focused on the long term strategy, or what I call the long game. Making your first million isn't about one lucky opportunity, it's about solving a problem consistently and then building that trust over time.
So, Tamara, out of the 500 millionaires that we interviewed so far in this podcast, 1 out of 5 are tech millionaires. So why do you think, and the other 1 out of 5 is real estate? So why do you think that we have a large number of tech entrepreneurs and tech millionaires showing up for the podcast? So the statistics shows that then technology or being in tech is a very good way to build wealth. But tell us in your experience, what are the good, the bad, and the ugly of the tech businesses?
Of tech businesses and why they fail so often. So I feel a lot of startups, and particularly tech startups, fail because they really don't understand the business model and the customers. A lot of people whom I've talked to that quite honestly did not last past 1 year, I mean, let alone 2 years, is that somebody told them they had an idea, someone told them it was a great idea, and they just decided to launch. And there is this school of thought that, just fail fast, fail fast. And that works if you have a lot of money behind you to support failing fast. But if you are that one, founder that's basically self-funding it, etc., you have to build a company that can consistently, have a sustainable business model. I have a good friend of mine. She actually is well connected, had a lot of contacts, and she started a tech company and didn't think about how long it took to actually get customer acquisition and to get people who wanted to buy the product. And then not only that, she didn't do any competitive analysis whatsoever. So she thought she had the latest, greatest idea. And she later found out that even in her own city, there were 5 other startups that were doing the exact same thing, and she didn't have a differentiated product. So I think that a lot of companies fail because they don't understand their business model and they don't understand their cost structure, because you have to make sure that your costs can support revenue generation, particularly if you don't have financing or funding initially.
So, tell us about your story. Why you decided to become an entrepreneur?
So I decided to start as an entrepreneur. I actually knew since I was a little girl. And basically, we had a great life growing up, but my father worked for a company and he was laid off, and our lifestyle totally changed. But my friends whose parents were entrepreneurs, their lifestyle didn't visibly change to me. So even as a little girl, and I probably couldn't even spell it at the age that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I knew that I would be. And that just followed me throughout the years. Prior to starting the company, I worked for a major consulting firm. It was the commercial side of Booz Allen Hamilton in healthcare and M&A. And I was working 20-hour days. And that didn't include sleeping, showering. I missed every birthday. I missed every major event. I was aging. I gained all of this weight. I was probably the most unhealthiest I've ever been in my life, the most unhealthy I'd ever been. And I decided if I was going to work that hard, I should build something for myself. And so I saved up money so that I could support myself and, have somewhat of a lifestyle while I went out on my own. And I then built a relationship map where I put where's the strongest need and where are my strongest relationships. And that landed me my first customer. And I partnered because, partnership, sometimes there's nothing wrong with partnering when you first start. I partnered with another company that had the relationships, but not the people. And at the time, Booz was having layoffs, and I just hired people that they let go, and we were off. I made my first million with my first contract in a very short amount of time, and we built value. So that's the story. So from a little girl all the way up to, I wanted to, if I was going to work that hard, I needed to build legacy and wealth for myself.
What is the biggest challenge of you, women in tech, building a tech company, and how you become that challenge? Like, where the women in tech are the more underserved when it comes to funding. Very little percentage of women in tech get literally funding on VC. So tell us both things. Why what was your biggest challenge growing your company and how you become that challenge? But also, why do you think there's a problem that all the money out there, most of the money out there, just go to the movies and not to you girls?
Yeah, there are two. So I am a serial entrepreneur. So my one company, the leading niche, I actually self-funded it for a lot of the reasons why, it's hard to get money. And I let my contracts fund future investments. But for my second, my AI company, Rely AI, I share the cost with my co-founder, who he actually is a male, and he's well connected in, financing, and he's started and sold companies before. So I was a gap for me. So I worked with him because he knows all the people, and we're actually going out for our funding round now. And because of his contacts, we already have the people whom we can, reach out to try to when we're raising money for our fund. So with that, what I say is, if there is a gap, and for me, it was I had the network, but I hadn't activated it. So it is very important for everyone, but particularly women, to get out there and network and build. Think about in your strategy. Okay, I need the financing and whatever area you need. I need strategy or whatever it is, and to build that network to help you. And I mean, the research has shown that we need more female run investment firms and equity companies and family owned entities and family offices. We need more VC companies because it is known that females happen to hire and fund more female oriented, founded companies. And so we just have to have more of us out there. And then we need for the males to become advocates for us. But I also am one that doesn't stick on the negative. I believe that you, Harry, or anyone, you deserve to be in a room, right? I don't lead with the fact that I'm female. You can look at me and tell, I don't lead with the fact that I'm an African American. You can look at me and tell. So I lead with my capability. I lead with my success. I lead with building trust because at the end of the day, people want to work with people whom they trust. And it won't take away the bias of funding, the fact that we need to increase funding for female led organizations and tech firms, but it can at least help. And it is what it is, particularly during these times. And so I personally try to use now my network as much as possible. Rather than a cold call, I have someone to send in a warm lead for me or a hot lead for me because they'll be more willing to talk to me, because someone else is making that introduction. So you have to be creative and strategic and know that the issue is there. And then when we get in the room as females, I'm talking to our female tech owners now, when we get in the room, it is on us to bring others in the room to make sure we fund female owned tech companies and that we do our part because it was harder for us.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And the most important thing is that you guys have to be community among yourself and support
Yes.
each other. And we need more leaders. Well, let me say this. It's not that we need more women leaders. We have a lot of women leaders out there, but still we are facing challenges. I train in my workshop, speakers and leaders in London. I
Mhm.
train a woman that is Harvard graduate, right? And
Mhm.
he was C-level, okay, the really well-known financial company in London, and she find out that their children looks good in the C-level suite, yeah, and nobody was actually taking into consideration her opinions. And she said, "I'm a graduate, right?" And she was telling me, "Harry, what else I need to show to prove that I'm credible, to prove that I didn't arrive here because I took it for granted." So, like this, she was quitting her job. And I was training her in our workshop speakers and leaders, and she was starting creating a movement for women to empower themselves and to get treated fairly and create a framework community for that, right?
Yeah.
So
We, like I
women
said, we
women
have
need
to
to
bring
take
others.
the leadership. Yeah. Okay. The other question is about your careers when you build your first company. Yeah, how hard was to find your first client, and how do you find the first client?
Yeah. So mine was, I guess, fortunately for me, but unfortunate for a story is it wasn't as difficult for me because I put together that relationship map that I talked about. And I found someone who needed me just as much, if not more, because he had the clients, but they didn't take him seriously because I think he had a company of, there were just three of them. So when we partnered and I hired all of those that had been laid off by Booz at the time, we now went together and we were a much larger company. So that's how I found my very first one. And it was about the need and the fact that we could fill the gap. but I really want to hone in the importance of relationships. I even believe that even if it's an RFP or a request for proposal where you're going after something competitive, the more information you can get before it's what we call hit the streets or becomes available for you have to do that and form relationships because people want to trust you. I also think that it's important to have a strategy. You get that first contract, and there is nothing wrong with getting a first contract from somebody as long as it's legal, within the federal government, at least here in the US. There are a lot of restrictions around that. So you want to make sure you do everything legal. But sometimes it's that soccer captain that you're working with. Sometimes it's the person that you're going golfing with. Sometimes it's the person that's running a marathon. And I try to see people as people, but at the end of the day, a lot of people within our network are working for corporations or they're working for entities, even if it's a startup and they need your help or they need whatever service or product you provide. So I always try to pull from my network to that. And I tell people, particularly if you're just starting, there is nothing wrong with being a subcontractor. A lot of people want to be the prime. They will get the main contract, but money is money in my mind. It doesn't matter if it's prime money or subcontract money or partnership money. Money. And as long as it's profitable, at least I try to start with profit, then it's fine. But I believe the first contract comes from, at least for me, was from the relationship and making sure there was a need.
So tell us about your company, the niche. Tell us all about it. Why are you doing
Yes.
that?
Yes. So the leading niche is a systems integrator. Right now, our main customers are federal agencies, both on the civilian and the defense side. And we do everything around predictive analytics and data science. So I guess in some ways, people are transitioning towards AI. But from my shop and where I came from, it was around predictive analytics, which is pretty much the same thing, right? And so we've done work in about 17 different countries. And we have right now employees about across the US, and I would say 12 different states, US states. And we do really good work. We are still considered a small business, but we have large business capabilities. We're award winning and international. So that is the leading niche. And now, which is a lesson to be learned for entrepreneurs, is to make sure you're diversified. We thought we were very, very within the federal government because we didn't want to stretch ourselves too far and too wide. And so we didn't want to go commercial and state and local and federal. But then now, given everything that's going on in the US federal government, it is a little bit more challenging. It's always been challenging, but it's really challenging now. And so we're thinking about diversifying in the commercial private sector, which is a piece of advice. And that is you have to be able to pivot when necessary. And I would ask people to broaden their definition of diversification. So again, we thought we were highly diversified, but in this season, all agencies are pretty much taking a hit. Maybe not Department of Homeland Security so much, but all agencies are taking a hit. And even if the budget hasn't decreased, but it's increased, how they procure is different now. And so that's something that we are staying on top of, and we're probably going to diversify outside of our current base. Because while we thought we were diversified, we probably weren't as diversified as we should have been.
You have the mindset, right?
Yeah.
You have it like, okay, if we have to pivot, we pivot.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be fine. Let's explore the information sector. Let's explore, I mean, predicting behavior or following data science and analytics. Something
Yeah.
that, even for the stock market, right? Those
Right.
tools and those softwares that they are there that if it can give you the predictions of how things are
Mhm.
going to behave, it's better than go there blind, right?
Right. And I think as entrepreneurs, it would be remiss of me not to mention the difficult times, like entrepreneurship hard. And that's why you've got to be passionate about the industry or the product or, or something there's building legacy for your children, or you're passionate about the industry, if it's energy or whatever it could be in. It's hard. And so I have to be vulnerable to tell you that right now it's the hardest times we've ever been in, because it's just so different than what we're used to. But I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate. Every morning I wake up, I know that I'm employing people and they depend on their job, which we hope is their passion as well, to send their children to school, have a better way of life. And that drives me, along with making a difference for customers. And so that's important. And right, we're going to pivot because that's what we need to do.
Whatever. Yeah, but in your space is the only way of survival.
Right.
It's like, and I think so many tech companies fail because of that, because they don't take it as easy as you take it, right? You don't even
Right.
know. You don't even know how it's gonna look like, but you know that you're gonna find with your existing um, with your existing infrastructure that you have, and then we're gonna pivot. Look, let me tell you a story. I don't know if you know about this company, Slack. You know about this, right?
Right.
Slack, okay? So first, they didn't build this. First, they want to do a computer game.
Mm-hmm.
And the computer game didn't work, but what it worked, it was they have like a way of storage images, okay? And they take this thing and they sold it to Yahoo, I think. That's Then they took the money and they said, wow, now we're gonna build the game. And they came back to start to build the game. And again, it didn't work, but they say when the money was about to run out, they say, you know what? The game, I don't think is work, but at least we have this communication system that we designed to the developers more efficient, yeah. And that was a snack. So they put on the space, and twice they didn't even manage to commercialize what they thought on the first place. The other day also, to debate this very same podcast, a tech entrepreneur from the 80s from Canada showed up, and he invented like a mobile phone that track your time at work, okay?
Uh-huh.
And he thought that he's gonna sell it to all the workers so people can show how efficient they are at work and they could get fired. So he thought that, and then he produced so many devices he couldn't sell one, not even one. Nobody cares about this. And then he goes to the CEO and said, look, I have these devices. Do you want to buy them for your employees? And the CEO said, no, I don't want to buy this either. What I need this for. But the CEO told him, but you know what I'm happy to buy for you? If you give me these devices for a month, you can lease them to me. Okay? And then you generate that data about the efficiency of how my work and a report. I'm happy to pay you for that piece of paper, for that report. For that, I pay you money. I'm not gonna pay you money for your food, for your device. I'm not even gonna. I'm just gonna lease them to you, and I'll pay for the data. So, in my Tamara series, where he started, he thought that he would sell one to every worker in Canada, and finally, what actually the market wanted out of the product. So, if you don't have this mindset of pivoting, you cannot be in tech. It goes so fast.
No, you can't.
It goes so fast. Yeah.
Right. And
So-
often the target customer base you think your product is for can totally change, be 180 degrees different than what you think. You have to be open to that in a strategic way.
So then my next question is, if you already have one company and you exit and you know, then why do we do? It's not easy to find your talent. I'm sure that you go to corporate America, they're going to pay you so much money and they're going to make you so much comfortable. You will be able to have a huge house and a nice car and Monday to Friday job and so much security. So why you going again to the entrepreneurship nightmare when you don't really even need to. You already exit your first company. What are you back? You should be on the beach, enjoying the sun, having mojito.
I think it's in our DNA. I think it's in entrepreneurs' DNA that you just always have these ideas, or you're always asked to lead something. People look at you as having a successful exit, and then they want to invite you to something else. And so I probably would never work for corporate America. I just cannot have a boss. Like I cannot, I cannot. I've done that once before for a number of years, and I can't be in that. So I will always do something entrepreneurial. But my desire is to more move into like the investor standpoint. And I kind of am an investor. Like I'm invested in a couple of hotels. I'm obviously invested in Rely AI, etc. So I'm going to move more towards the investor, because then there's still an entrepreneurial spirit around that. And then also continue my philanthropic efforts. I believe that to whom much is given, much is required. I believe we have to give back into the communities in which we live, work, and serve. And I've all grew up, my dad was a minister, so I grew up as a preacher's kid. So I've always had that kind of give back attitude. Even with the leading niche, we dedicate 10% of our net profits to different 501c3s, depending on if they're aligned. A lot of it we to 501c3s where our employees volunteer, so that way they can, present checks and kind of volunteer and help out there. So I'll always do something entrepreneurial, but it will not be working for a corporation, no matter how much they offer me. But it'll definitely be investor. And then I hope to sit on some paid corporate boards too as well.
Okay, so what advice do you have then to the women and to the female males, corporate and employee that they are listening to this podcast? They're thinking, "Oh, I wish that I have the courage of Tamara. I wish that I can leave my job and leave and be the boss. Then I can fill the calendar, my own calendar, and I do whatever I want, without knowing." That if you're in corporate America, somebody can come to you and say, "Can you do this?" You can tell, "Look, I'm sorry, this is not my job." But when you are in the net, everything is your job. So tell us but you have done the transition from corporate to entrepreneur. So can you tell our listeners that want to do this transition, what is the good, the bad, and the ugly of that transition? Because everybody always look the nice part. Oh, look at her. She had the business. She's the boss. Now she has an exit. And wow, I want to do that. And the dynamic is completely different to being an employee, right? Right, and being an entrepreneur. At least I know I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years,
Yeah.
And when you make a mistake, you pay with your pocket. Yeah. And, and for me, I'm very stubborn. I only learn when I lose one. So I know a lot of things.
Yeah.
You can't imagine, how many mistakes I've done in my life. So
Yeah,
tell us,
no,
so what message do you have for people in corporate that want to enter? Good things, good, the bad, and
the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the first thing I want to say, and Harry, you mentioned this, is I still don't control my own calendar. Like I didn't in corporate, and I don't now. In fact, I don't even touch it. I have a wonderful superhero, Michaela. If you're out there, thank you for everything. She is my boss. I don't touch my calendar. I go where she tells me to go. And so I don't have control of that. I have another friend who came to me because it was another female who wanted to start her own company. She left corporate America. Someone told her that she was great. She quit. And within 2 months, she called me crying because bills still have to be paid. There has to be a strategy. The good is you do have a level of independence, and you can build wealth very quickly if you do it the right way and it's profitable. Again, not revenue focused. I'm very profit focused. You can build legacy, like generational wealth. And that's exciting because you are confined to a salary. Although there are some corporations that allow you to be an entrepreneur. So therefore, you have the great salary, you have the great bonus, you invest it, and you have freedom over your budget and your business, etc. So there's that. So if you're
can be, Tamara, sorry to interrupt you because I like this concept a lot. You can be an entrepreneur
Sure.
inside if the corporation allows them to do this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in many ways, it's not even like they know it, but if you have a great, leadership that you're reporting into and they allow you to control your budget and do all of that, then that's there. And then it's less risk because the risk is on the company. You could lose your job if you don't do well, or in period. So that's the good thing about being an entrepreneur, even an entrepreneur. Like, you do have the freedom to create. Nobody can stop me from building what I want to build. I can go after it, I can do it. And I believe that what I hunt and kill, I can have. That's what I believe. I believe that I was created to be an entrepreneur and to employ. The bad is the risk is on me. I have a number of employees that twice a month depend on me for their life. We've never missed a payroll. We've never been late for a payroll. I take a lot of pride in that. I have people that have started companies. They have missed payroll. Like, how devastating is that? I actually was riding with a woman one day from an event, and she was calling one bank and calling another one and trying to move money around. And all I could think about was those poor employees. And I have somebody that they asked me to mentor once. I couldn't believe it. She paid herself before she paid her employees. Honestly, I couldn't mentor her any further because there were many years that I didn't pay myself. Everybody else was paid. At the end of the year, what was left over, I got. That is the bad of it. So you better make sure that if you want to be an entrepreneur, guess what? The bills don't stop. The family obligations don't stop. You might have to change your lifestyle. There is a commitment to that. Fortunately for me, I work for a consulting firm. I was on the road 99% of the time. So I was able to save a lot of money, but that's not everybody's story. If I'm honest, and I don't think I've ever admitted this anywhere else, I calculated if all went bust, everything, I was going to move at home with my parents, and I still had 3.5 years to live at the same lifestyle I had before. But I hustled. I was eating ramen noodles forever, so that I could do that. And then the ugly is it can be a very lonely journey. You can't, necessarily talk to my family about some issue that I'm having because it could be a financial issue in terms of profitability. And then they're nervous, right? And then sometimes you don't know who you
Oh,
can
the
trust.
entrepreneur side, my family, no one is an entrepreneur. Just my brother, just after me, and
Yeah,
to whom you talk to. Yeah,
yeah.
every time that I talk with my dad about business, he talked to me about politics.
Right.
So, so then he loved politics. He always talking about politics. But when I have a problem, I said, "Hey, look, I have this business problem, blah blah." Very, very he switch off, right? Because on a business before, he doesn't want to know anything about it. He's not interested. It's not his thing. So, and probably the family, friends, people that you study in the school, it's very difficult. That's why one of the main reasons that we do this podcast because brilliant people like you show up and then uh, make my day and the day especially for our audience, right? Because
Yeah.
we only same goal. This podcast
Yeah.
is only for entrepreneurs and only entrepreneurs, people that want to be entrepreneurs, people that are in corporate that want to become entrepreneurs. The only people to listen to this. Nobody.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
is a for us to empower ourselves and I see I can tell you successful is because of the drive,
Hmm.
building that character. But this it comes with a lot of passion and also try and error, right? There is certainty, okay, that somehow it's gonna work, and you have to keep believing and believing.
Yeah, you
And,
have to believe it.
and
And I
things
believe you
change
have.
and change and change, and you, oh my God. And I tell you how many business I have that we're doing amazing. And all of a sudden, COVID happened, anything happened, and you're like, wow, how this change and change. And then I'm thinking, why my businesses aren't the only one that changed so drastically? You know what I mean? Now you are okay, and after 2, 3 days, and after 2, 3 years, the whole industry changed and the whole thing changed so far. And I had to de-escalate because at the end of the day, we were big enough and things like that happened to me several times. So well, somehow I survived 18 years, I've been a very interesting roller coaster journey, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I can feel it.
I won't change, I won't change it for anything. I really love it. But it's all matter that we always with a problem that we have to solve. Okay.
Always.
And it's always a problem that we have to solve that. I always say if we solve that problem, it will solve the rest of the problems. And dealing and battling to solve this problem keep us in it. So what's the last message that you have for entrepreneurs out there, female entrepreneurs, that they're having hard time, that they are stuck, that they are working day and night, wearing all the hats, things are not working, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah. So my advice has a few parts to it. The first is, it goes back to what I said earlier. If not you, then who? Who's going to do it? And you're going to have days where you're going to feel people are saying you're not good enough, and you have all these decisions. I don't know what the game is, but it's like you have the thing, you keep popping the little rabbit that keeps coming up. You solve one thing, something else comes down. So you got to find your happiness. Like, you have to find your passion. I can't speak to this. You have to be passionate about your idea or what you want to do, because there are many hard nights. There are many times of tears. There are many times where people whom you trust will break your trust, and you have to go back into your soul and figure out why you're doing it. Like, what's the why you're doing it? And that's very, very important. Another piece of advice I would be is to find your champions, your mentors. As an entrepreneur, those are just as important. I had a meeting today. I'm in an organization called YPO. It's a Young Presidents Organization. We meet monthly. And somebody gave me a personal experience that opened up my mind. I would have never thought, I would have eventually gotten there, but it might have been 3 years. If I didn't have that network of other fellow entrepreneurs that I could tap into, then it would probably be a lot more expensive and a lot more time. And then the last piece of advice, because we talk about a lot, listen to all of, podcasts, you'll get all the good, juicy advice. But the biggest thing I want to also say is, like, you've got to know your ethical compass. What are to a point where you are willing to walk away from the opportunity or walk away from the numbers. And me in federal contracting, it is one of the largest opportunities for contracting. And you, even on the corporate side, you have to be able to walk away. And there was one big opportunity that I wanted so badly, but at the end, the person I was having a conversation with said something that just made it just sick inside. And I'm like, wait a minute, is this person asking me to pay for it? It was just really, really an uncomfortable conversation. I called my board of advisors. I said, we're not doing it. We had spent all this money, but we're not doing it. And in that moment, I said, this is it. I know what my ethical compass is. And I did to do it. And I'm glad that I didn't, because a year later, this person was all over in the news, got arrested. The CIA, the FBI, all the people, all the agencies were looking at him and following him. And I am 100% sure they were also listening to that conversation. And had I said, okay, fine, I'll write you that check.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
I'll do that. I am 100% sure I would not be sitting here with you. I'm wearing an orange jumpsuit or black and white jumpsuit somewhere. But it started with my core, my compass.
Ethical, absolutely.
Yeah, my ethics. And not all money is good money. And I cannot tell you how thankful I am that ethics, and that my parents raised me to have strong ethics, and it's never too late. And the reason why it's important for you to figure that out is because you're going to be in that moment where you're going to only have 5 seconds for a response. In that moment, I had hit then and there what I was going to do. And I basically was like, well, I got to call you back. I called my board and I went back and I said, no. I already knew it was going to be a no, but I was just in shock that I was being asked. And that was like a 3-second question. and I would be in a very different place. So that's the last story that I'll leave you with, because it's so important about when are you going to say enough is enough and no is no.
So people are in love with this conversation, how people can find you, how this process works.
Yes. So if you want to look me up, how people can find me, well, I'm on LinkedIn. So Tamara Nall, that's TAM ARA.NALL on Nall. I'm on all the platforms from Instagram to TikTok. I'm on all of them. So I am Tamara Nall. It's more of a little personal stuff, so you get to know me as a person. But if you have any questions, you need some advice, reach out. I'm on this podcast, so we're now all family, and we should help each other so that we can all continue to build and grow together.
Oh, thank you so much, uh, Tamara, for the broadcast. I really appreciate. I think that you're brilliant. Yeah, you're tough.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very sharp, and no wonder why your business partner should be happy to have you. Yeah, if it's me, I put your red cup. I was telling everybody, have you seen how sharp my business partner? That's what I was doing.
Awesome.
I was in
Awesome.
business with you. So thank you so much for the broadcast. And for all of you following the podcast here in our next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneur like Tamara break that wall and achieve the best million. But for now,
Bye-bye.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.